Okay, here we are. Welcome, Olivia.
Hello. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm pretty well today.
Okay, do you want to introduce yourself there to everybody that's watching and listening?
Yeah. So my name's Olivia. I'm 25 years old. Australian, living in Stockholm. Um, and I met Jerry through some counseling. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I study social work from Australia. In Australia, and that's pretty much it. I currently work in alcohol sales.
Alcohol sales. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
good place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So you're living here now in Stockholm a while, huh?
Yeah, well, I've been here maybe 8 months now, 9 months. Mm-hmm.
And you moved from Australia, is that right?
Yeah, from Melbourne.
From Melbourne. But you
Yes.
don't have a classic Melbourne name, Australian name.
No, my family is Italian. Olivia Iacovino. Very Italian.
Very Italian. What part of it
Mm-hmm.
are they from?
They're from Rome and Sicily, so yeah, southern.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Amalfi once. Uh,
It's so beautiful.
just amazing,
It's
amazing.
gorgeous. Yeah. I hope everything opens up again now.
Yeah, I'd love to go back.
Uh,
Best time of my life.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's extremely beautiful. It's hard to have a bad time for sure.
And the food and service, everything, scenery, amazing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the food. Oh, I missed that in Sweden. Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
what about food? The main reason I asked you to come on is to touch on a subject which I find that people rarely talk about is
Yeah.
eating disorder. And
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you coming on this evening to talk about it. So, if you'd like to share
Yeah.
your story,
Uh,
what you're going through, and give people a good insight into the mind of
mm-hmm.
people
Yeah.
with,
No worries at all. I think. Yeah. I think that people don't really talk about it at all. And I think that because they don't, it's got a lot of, it's very misunderstood. Um, and I think people kind of think of it then as like a diet, or they glamorize it, or and I think it's very detrimental to those with eating disorders and anorexia, bulimia, any kind of eating problems. So yeah, I've for a long time now had an eating disorder. It started when I was about 16. And since then, I have developed, I think, coping mechanisms. But it's kind of something that's always with you. It never really goes away. It's always in your head. It's like, I think, I've described it before as like a split personality, or like there's like somebody in your head kind of like controlling what you do. And yeah, it's something that is extremely difficult and really, really tied in with depression. And I don't think it's ever really a disease that is completely alone. It's often alongside anxiety, depression, trauma. So yeah.
Okay, so when did you get first diagnosed with anorexia?
First diagnosed when I was 19, but I was at my worst at about 16 through 19. So I had it for a few years before I even got help for it at all.
Right.
In fact, I never really got help for it. I just kind of received a diagnosis, and that was that.
So you got no help. Okay.
No.
But before the help kicked in, like, was it a slow, progressive thing you fell into?
Yeah, it's sort of hard to remember, and I think it kind of messes with your memory a bit. Maybe starving yourself has that effect, but I think as it started for me, it was Like I was never overweight. I was very sporty, very athletic. I loved to eat, and I got it in my head to lose weight. And slowly, as you're successful, I think then that's where it kind of hooks you in. I think the first few kilos you lose, you think, oh shit, like I can do this. And then at the start, I think that's why it seems like a diet, because you might actually look good for a certain period, or you might look really healthy. And then when you kind of realize how to do it, and you kind of learn the tricks, then that's when it becomes obsessive. So it starts off as this thing that could be perceived even to yourself as healthy or something that is good.
Okay. And how long before you realize you're addicted to the pattern, to the way you look, to the addicted to the thought pattern inside your head?
Yeah. I remember when I was probably 17, I remember I'd lost probably 3 or 4 kilos, and I weighed 52 kilos at the time. And my mum looked at me, she said, "You look great. I hope you're not thinking of losing any more weight. I hope you're not going to take this too far. You look really good. Just stop now." And I remember thinking, as if I'm going to stop now. And I think that's the first time I really remember, like, okay, this, I don't even care how I look anymore. It's not really how I look. Everyone tells me I look great. Like, I don't care. I want to get thinner. I want to lose more weight.
Okay, so appreciate that, Olivia. But what was the driving force behind it?
Even now, it's hard to say. I think it was it's really difficult to precisely like put my finger on it, but I think it was suddenly receiving attention or getting compliments, and I was never comfortable at all with the way I looked, and to suddenly get attention for that.
Okay.
I think that pushed me, and particularly in the time where all the attention was positive attention, and yeah.
Okay. So when you're getting, because I really want to understand, when you're getting all that positive attention from your family, friends, let's say boyfriends or whatever, at that age, how did your relationship, every time you saw food on the plate, how was your relationship? What was the reaction? What was going on cognitively?
Yeah, there's that really disgusting thing people say, that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. And I think it's like something like that. Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels.
Right. Okay, I never heard that one before.
Yeah. Which is so messed up. But I think that's the thing, like you start to value the control and having self-control over eating and being happy. And I think that it's I think a big part of it is fear of losing control. So you don't even if you know that if you eat a piece of chocolate, you're not going to put on weight. I think, at least for me, I would fear that then I would eat all the chocolate. Like I wouldn't be able to control myself, and I would lose that control.
Okay, so then that's the food thing. But when you used to see yourself in the mirror, like what was going on there with your reflection?
Yeah, I think I wasn't. It's like my focus shifted not on being pretty or being having a healthy, good body, like it shifted to the thinner I am, the better I am. The thinner I am, the more value I have. Or it became like a competition within myself of like, okay, like I'm very thin now. I can see that, but my goal is to be thinner because then I'll feel better just because I'm thinner.
Okay. And if you weren't getting the validation, confirmation, let's say everything that your ego, your cognitive dissonance was telling you, um, did it get more extreme?
More extreme in which way? Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Eating less, working out more, trying to get down
yeah,
weight more.
yeah. I guess as it goes on, you have to get more extreme because I think that your metabolism slows so far down that you, at some point, you can't lose weight, and in order to do so, you really have to go even further and further and further.
Yeah.
Um,
So just to understand, what kind of what would be your typical diet?
well, I was kind of, I still ate every day, 3 meals a day. I ate extremely, like a lot of vegetables, a lot of like high volume food rather than anything with kind of many calories. So I'd eat like a lot of vegetables, a lot of salads, a lot of like tuna, a lot of, yeah, white fish, um, anything that would kind of, I wouldn't feel, especially around my family being Italian, quite a lot of the culture surrounds food.
Mhm.
So I absolutely couldn't get away with not eating. So to kind of hide the problem, I would eat very light things. I would eat a lot of very light things, or yeah.
Yeah. So how long were you in that pattern before it started affecting your mental health? When you started to recognize it yourself?
Yeah, I would say so. It started in high school when I was 16, and then when I was 18, I think when I left high school and I stopped having that routine, um, and I had moved out of home as well. That's when it started to really, yeah, affect my mental health. Obviously, I'd had those issues already, but when I was on my own and when I was um, without school, without something to do every day, it really, that kind of mental health aspect really took over.
Okay. Could you describe it a bit more in detail? Like, what was the first thing you noticed?
Well, I think that I was just extremely alone. I think well, with my eating disorder, and I think with a lot of people as well, I had isolated myself to the point where I didn't do anything ever because uh, there's food involved in so many social gatherings and so many things you do in life. There's food involved, and I would do anything to stay away from that. I would make up any excuse. I'd lie and lie and lie um, to not have to see anybody. And this was all through high school. And I think if you're in high school, you see someone, you see people every day anyway. But when you are out of that, I think I realized suddenly how alone I was and how, I mean, in the end, your friends will stop reaching out to you because they know you'll say no. And uh, when I was 18, it was like that. I felt extremely alone. And I think it amplified all the other problems I was having.
Okay, so you felt alone, isolated. So obviously the depression started to kick in, did it?
Yeah, yeah, I would say so. Around then, yeah.
Yeah. And like how bad did it get, the depression?
Whew, definitely suicidal thoughts, self harm. Um, it was just kind of all the time and really overwhelming. And I would say it got really bad. Yeah.
Okay. And and during that self-harm, depression, anxiety, I would assume you had sleepless nights as well.
For sure. I mean, I was working night shift as well, as if it wasn't all too much already. I was working night shifts. I was not sleeping very well after that. And if I was sleeping enough, it was throughout the day. And that isolated me even more. You know, I couldn't see anyone during the day. I didn't see my family very much after that. It was, yeah, it was quite difficult.
So was there a divine intervention, as they say, or did you say, "Fuck this, I need to do something"?
I think that all throughout that time, my family, I don't think they understood it very well. I think there was a lot of, they, I think, just thought I was dieting, or maybe eventually they saw it as something quite like an eating disorder or an obsession, or, but they put a lot of pressure on me. I wouldn't exactly say positive pressure, but I think in the end, my need for family meant that I had to slowly try to first hide it. And then when it became too difficult to hide it, I had to kind of find ways to balance my need for family and the eating disorder. I had to find a way to have both live harmoniously, sort of.
And did that work for you, or was it a constant battle?
Oh, it was extremely hard. I mean, I think I was, instead of seeing my eating disorder as a disorder, as a mental illness, I thought of it as extremely embarrassing, which made me super secretive in front of my family. I would, you know, let's say we had a dinner at my grandmother's house, I would not eat all day until I got there. And then, just so I could be there with them and not feel like I was missing out on that and isolating myself. But then after that, I'd walk all night long just to, you know, burn the calories from that and not have to feel guilty.
Mm-hmm. Guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, did, did you ever pass out? Like get that low on energy?
For sure. No, I never like fainted, but I would black out all of the time. Yeah.
Could you describe that? That's interesting. Because I know, you know the saying, when you're haven't eaten, you get hungry, and I eat.
Yeah. I think I spent like 5 years hangry.
Right. Okay. Because I know
Yeah.
I get a dose of the shakes if I don't eat, and I have to eat straight away.
Yeah. Now I'm the same. I think that yes, I blacked out a lot. I never fell on the ground and passed out. But I think now that I think about now that I eat much more normally, I'm much healthier. I'm dealing with that. If I don't eat, I get very hangry. But back then, it's like the hungrier you are, the better it is. So you're not. I used to enjoy the feeling of being hungry because I knew that that's how you lost weight. So instead of being angry or kind of acting out because I was hungry, it would be something that would make me feel kind of elated and happy and almost positive. And I would, be probably nicer to people. Whereas if I ate or overate or felt that I was going to gain weight from what I just ate, then I could probably be nasty to somebody because I was disappointed in myself. And I was.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier you got was a medical intervention.
They when I was 21, I was at an extremely low point, and the doctor, without offering me any psychological help or psychotherapy or anything like that, just put me directly on antidepressants.
Antidepressants. Now, how did?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, like I have no judgment about the doctor, but like, would it not been pretty obvious there's a problem here and needs to be investigated?
Yeah, For sure. I think that for that doctor in that time, it was an easy fix. It was, I didn't really know what was going on, how to help myself. So when he said, "Have you tried antidepressants?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, try that." So I never really pushed for psychotherapy or anything like that. I kind of just was like, okay, like, you're the doctor.
Right. Okay. So you went on the antidepressants. Now, how was your experience with that?
Oh, I think that when I had gotten on the antidepressants, I was that's when my family started to intervene as well.
Okay.
So I was living with my boyfriend at the time, who wasn't working. He was on a visa from the US. He couldn't work at the time, so it was just me working. I was working a few jobs at that time, and I was studying as well. And I was clearly not dealing with things well. So my boyfriend called my sister. She showed up at my work, and suddenly, over the next few weeks, I was my family was always at my house, always making sure they were scared that I was at one point going to. I lived in a high-rise apartment, jump off the balcony. They were extremely scared suddenly. So at the time that I went on antidepressants, kind of everything happened at once, and I moved back in with my family. And so when I did get on the antidepressants, I actually did get better, but it's hard to say what it was that actually made me better, because I was then with my family and finally getting help, finally getting a bit more support.
Yeah.
Mm.
So support is the is the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can take the medicine, but if you don't have support, it's not going.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the medicine obviously helps the chemical side of things. And I think that so many people do really need that. I think that it's extremely vital in a lot of circumstances, antidepressants and any kind of medication like that. But yes, if you don't have the support, not much can change. I think if you don't talk to somebody, if you don't have a good support network, it's extremely difficult.
Big time, big time. So take because I'm really curious now to find out what is the emotional driving force for this such a destructive.
Sorry, it just cut out. Can you say that again? Sorry.
I'm just trying to find out if we can find out together what is the emotional negative driving force to keep you in this loop.
In the loop of the eating disorder, or the emotional driving force is, I think, comes from my self-worth being tied to my weight. And if I put on weight, then I am worth less. Or if my whole kind of image of myself is around my being thin. So I I think now, although it's better, there still is that voice in my head. Although now I'm actually at a healthy weight, there still is that problem that, okay, um, I'm not good enough if I put on weight.
And how much is that thought, that belief system still affecting you? I mean, when you go eat food, when the thought pops up, do you stop automatically, or do you challenge that thought?
I think in the end, your body forces you to challenge it. I think that it's extremely it's extremely difficult to stay in that restriction, to stay um, in that mindset. So I think in the end, your body kind of tells you what it needs, and then you need it, and then you're forced to challenge it a little bit. I think that's the kind of method I've been using for 9 years now, pretty much, is to let my body kind of push me to do things. But I think that, yeah, I would need to challenge it more. I think that it would be a much quicker process if I thought to myself, okay, I just need to do it. That's it. And put all the kind of consequences aside.
Yeah. It sounds like somebody's boiling a kettle in the background. I hear a whistling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it sounds like a kettle on the boil.
Oh, shit. It's not.
Not at all.
I can try unplugging my headphones.
Yeah. No. That's better.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's better. It sounded like the kettle was boiling for a long time.
Oi.
So,
Okay.
so you're pushing yourself now. Now, regarding the time in Australia, like, because I haven't been there, but like regarding eating disorder, anorexia, is there anything being done for people suffer with that, or is it put under the carpet?
I'm not sure, to be honest, because while I was in Australia, I never really reached out for help. So there probably is. There's, yeah, but I'm not so aware of it, so I can't really say.
Okay.
Mm.
But the other thing now, like, what goal do you have in mind? We'd say 5 years from now.
I guess to be satisfied with who I am rather than what I look like.
Yeah. And how's that working out for you? Like, what steps are you taking?
Well, I think my first step now has been just talking about it for so long. For pretty much this whole time, I've never really spoken about it. And I guess that's the first step for me.
Big time, yeah. Big time. Sorry, I'm just getting texts in there. So that's great. And I really appreciate it, Olivia. I really do, because like we've covered this in college, anorexia, eating disorders with the acupuncture of Chinese medicine. But it's one thing in theory, but to get to understand and talk to somebody who is actually going through it, it's a different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazed me for my own eating disorder how much talking about it can help, really. I mean, just saying it out loud. For so long, I wanted help. I wanted to do something about it, but I think in the kind of control part of it feels like, okay, but if you talk about it, you're going to put on weight. It's like there's everything is going to lead to weight gain. There's a connection between getting help and losing control. And I think that's the kind of part that you need to get rid of when you have an eating disorder. You need to,
So
that's the first step.
because you've said control a good few times. So what, like, if you observe it, like, what are you trying to control?
To control yourself. I think a lot of the time when you feel out of control in other parts of your life, or you can't control what other people do, you can't really ever control what happens around you. So I think it's a way of regaining control, to be able to control at least yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the control comes in. I think the control is at the center of it, really.
Yeah, but we'd say, and when you don't have self-regulation or self-control and you react badly, what happens to you?
Do you mean if, for example, I overeat or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. I think in the past I would compensate. I would say, okay, that happened tonight, but tomorrow I'll do extra exercise, or you can't let yourself slip up, because the moment you slip up, you feel like you've lost it. That's it. Like you're out of control, and you're not going to regain it, and that's it. And so I would, in the past, compensate. Yeah. But now it's more trying to push myself to rationalize and say, okay, well, be more logical about it and say, well, it's okay to eat if you feel like eating. It's your body asks what it needs. Your body, like, and trying to kind of push that message to myself.
Yeah. Okay. And living here in Sweden now, because it can be quite a tough climate here with the dark weather and long winters and all that, and cold winters. Has it affected you much mentally now?
For sure. It's pretty special here. I mean, especially coming from Australia, it's very different. So I think in a way that pushed me to the edge, to the point where I had to really start to focus on getting help. I had to, there's something about the social climate here as well. It's quite isolating. So it's the weather, it's the society, it's extremely isolating. So I guess
So
it has been very difficult, but kind of set the wheels in motion.
So when you seen the isolation pattern kicking in, what strategy did you use to counteract that?
Reaching out. I think that kind of you get a feeling when it's so dark outside and there's nothing to do. You can't even go and, like, you can barely go outside. It's so crappy. And I think the last thing you want to do is see somebody, but it's really, I mean, it's the only thing that will make you feel better. And reaching out, actually seeing people.
Human connection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That, and maybe like keeping up exercise, and for sure eating enough. Like, I think that really combats the depression as well.
yeah.
Yes.
So you've been coming to me for a good old while, but you're studying psychology, yeah?
Social work, psychology.
Social work. And you want to, what do you want to do with that?
I would like to, well, eventually I want to work for the police force. And I think that social work and psychology will play a huge role in that. In understanding people, and
And you play music as well, yeah?
I do, yes.
Yeah. And you don't have your viola with you, do you?
No, I don't.
Unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, that's a pity.
Right.
Maybe the next time we're on the podcast, we'll do it.
Yeah. That's another thing. Hobbies, having a hobby and having goals.
So what would you say to some young lady listening to this, watching this, or you're some young man going through disorders? What would you say to them?
To talk about it, and to reach out. And I think it'll be surprising to a lot of people who are beginning in that way to know how many people have gone through something like that. It's extremely common, which is surprising to a lot of people. To understand that it is an illness, it is actually an illness, and that it needs treating like any other illness. And to recognize the patterns in yourself. And I think one of the most important things is for, let's say, parents to recognize the patterns in their children, and to not
because there will be a good few parents listening to this. Could you list off the patterns? Like we'll have the textbook patterns, but let's say the ones that aren't written, the people I ain't aware of. From your own perspective.
I think lying, if you feel like your child is lying about things, you might think that's okay, they're lying, but if they're lying to get out of a meal or something surrounding food, if they seem to be controlling food, coming up with excuses why they're controlling food, I think that's a big thing. For example, like, oh no, I can't eat cheese anymore. Dairy makes me, suddenly I'm sensitive to dairy, or suddenly any kind of food makes me sick, or suddenly I can't digest bread properly, or, excuses as to why you can't eat a certain thing. I think that's a really big thing.
Mhm. Now, to switch, we'll touch, I want to touch on this briefly, just to appreciate that, but to switch over from anorexia to obesity.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on obesity?
I think that I don't know what to say. I think it's probably quite similar in some kind of thought patterns to any kind of eating disorder. I think they all have similarities. Obviously, there's food involved.
Mhm.
I think it's to do my thought on obesity. It's very tough. I think it's very tied to mental illness. It can be. It can also, obesity is also something that can be quite genetic. So it's
Mm.
hard to say for me, really.
But like
Thoughts in what way?
the reason I'm going there is because when you see an obese person out in the street, is your thought pattern, this is the reason I should not eat. That's preventing me from,
No.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
That would be the worst case scenario if you kept eating like crazy. So if
Right. No.
you thought that don't eat like that, you'll end up like this.
No, I think I have a huge amount of respect for people who are not even obese, but people who might even be, their BMI might say they're overweight, but they're happy, or they, you never know what someone's really going through, but they seem happy and I think that's wonderful. I don't see that person as any less attractive or worth any less, or it's a very, I think in eating disorder and anorexia is very tied to yourself. It's very much like you can look at someone who's considered overweight and see them as beautiful and see them as wonderful, and kind of you can look at anyone and you see mostly their personality, and but it's a different thing when it comes to yourself. I think, because I've often thought like that. I think, okay, well, that person may not be the thinnest person I've seen. They may be a tiny bit overweight, but I think they're fantastic, So what's wrong with somebody else seeing me like that? It's a very, I know what you're saying. Like, how do I see? I don't see anything wrong with people being overweight.
Mhm.
I think so long as they're happy, or, good people, but it's not the same principle I apply to my life.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
And have you spoken to, have you interconnected with other people that are going through the same thing as you?
Yes, I briefly. I mean, I have a very close friend who also uh, went through something similar, but uh, it's can be a tough thing to talk about, I think.
And and why is that? Like, as I'm really interested, why is that? I can understand a certain degree, but what
Mm.
prevents a person from talking?
Well, I think that if two people had cancer and they knew each other had cancer, I think they would be freely able to talk about it, because there's a degree of uh, society and people around them supporting them, and I think it's generally very good to talk about the trauma you go through with, let's say, cancer and other physical or illnesses.
Yeah.
When it comes to an eating disorder, I think so many people who have had them are so used to being put down because of them, are so used to being made to feel, kind of abandoned and ashamed, for sure, of the problem they have, and it being so misunderstood by almost everybody, that it's a very uncomfortable thing to talk about, because automatically it switches to being something you're very closed up about, something you protect quite a lot, something you don't want to have like a light shone on it, really.
Yeah.
I think it's something, for me, I was within my family, I was quite bullied for it, I would say. So if somebody tries to bring it up with me, I'd be glad, I'd be very happy. But I think a few years ago, somebody tried to bring it up with me, I would make every excuse in the book to deny that I had it, or to switch the subject, because by talking about it in a way, if it's still a very active problem, talking about it exposes it, and I think it doesn't want to be exposed. It doesn't want to be spoken about because it does not want to be fixed.
Interesting. So, is there something broken?
In what sense?
In when you're in that pattern, do you see yourself as broken?
You see, I think, yes, I think you see yourself mostly as, I think, yeah, you see yourself as broken.
Okay.
Or you see yourself as damaged in a way. Yeah, you can sometimes. Or at the same time.
Damage I can understand, but broken, nobody's broken there. I mean, there's no point in going around trying to fix it while at the same hand believing you're broken. It just becomes a vicious circle.
Yeah.
And really, there's too many people have bought into that. I am broken. Therapists tell them they're broken. Oh, poor you. There's no hope for you. Take this pill or whatever. But seriously, nobody's broken. We all have our own stuff. There's a crack in everybody's psyche.
Yes.
And it's just to look right through it. There's more value in that little crack than anything. What you learn, what you grow from the pain of it, all of that. So there's no point in trying to heal yourself and at the same hand believing you're broken, because belief creates the behavior. Do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of a cycle, yeah.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. And you'll never get out of it. Like, how you see yourself is how you see the world.
Yeah.
So there was something there. I know we only have a few minutes left, Olivia. If there was something you could do for eating disorder on a bigger and grander scale, what would it be?
If there was something I could do
to contribute, to help young women and men understand it more, what would you love to do? Because this is part of your story, this is part of your history.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to bring awareness to the problem.
And you seem to be coming better and better.
Yes, I would love to. I think where I'm at now is a place where I can see that I didn't need to go through what I went through for so many years. I didn't need to waste so many years or use so many of my years in getting to where I'm at now. It could have all been very much condensed into about a year if I had just gone in the right direction and been put onto the right people or received any sort of help. I think what's fantastic now is there's a lot of like, of course, Instagram and TikTok have these very negative sides, but what's great is that a lot of people who have gone through these things are reaching out and trying to help other people. And I think that's a great platform that I would love to be able to have, especially educating the parents of people, of children with these problems is extremely, extremely important, because they have the biggest sway in their kids' life. So, and also re-establishing a love of food and pushing that message. And food is part of life. It's a fantastic thing. It's, you know, you can use it to socialize with people. It should be loved and not something you're scared of. So I think I would love to push that message.
Yeah. So on that note, it's just a question now, dear. What were you malnourishing yourself really of?
I think self-love and self-worth.
Yeah. So and how do you nourish your self-love, your self-worth, your life now? How do you nourish yourself now?
I think the first step for me has been to get to that point where I feel like to constantly work on my mental health and to give more kindness, be more kind to myself, be more forgiving, not be harsh, and not reinforce kind of negative beliefs on myself. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I think that, yeah, that's a very important first step for me.
And does your music help a lot, compositions and all that?
It does. I mean, recently I haven't had time to play it, but when I do, it really helps. It is for sure a form of meditation. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll leave it at that, Olivia. I really appreciate you. Give me a good insight now into better understanding of eating disorder, and I hope everyone that's been tuning in has got something of value of it. But
I really hope so, yeah.
So what's your Instagram tag thing, or your name on Instagram?
I haven't got one yet. I had because you need to like link. I'm very bad when it comes to social media. I stink at social media. I absolutely am worthless. Okay. That's something I am worthless at. And what was it?
As your coach now, I'm asking you to set up a
you know, you keep saying it. I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people want to connect with you and reach out.
Yes, I really need to work that out.
Yeah, because I'm going to put this up now in about an hour by the time everything is ready. So you got about an hour to get your Instagram name and all that. So I think it'd be really good, Olivia, you know?
Yeah. Social media, that's something that scares me.
Yeah, well, too late now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So amazing. Very good.
Cool.
All right.
I really appreciate it, Olivia.
Absolutely, of course.
Great insight. Cool.
No.
Look, we'll talk soon, and thanks everyone for tuning in, and hope you found this amazing. Message the hell out of Olivia and keep in touch with her. She has lots of stories to tell you and great little personal experience about struggling with eating disorder. Anyway, Bella, ciao.
Ciao.